The traditional Mediterranean diet represents one of the most heavily researched, thoroughly evaluated, and scientifically validated dietary patterns in the history of modern epidemiology and preventive medicine. For many decades, extensive observational data, longitudinal cohort profiles, and controlled clinical trials have consistently and clearly demonstrated a powerful, inverse relationship between a high adherence to this ancestral eating model and a massive, predictable reduction in chronic non-communicable diseases. These include major cardiovascular disorders, metabolic syndrome, ischemic stroke, type 2 diabetes, and various forms of malignant cancers. While the broad, systemic health benefits of this nutritional pattern are widely celebrated globally, understanding the exact statistical weight of its impact on human longevity requires a deep, mathematically precise synthesis of large-scale population data. A landmark, highly comprehensive meta-analysis published in the British Journal of Nutrition, titled Mediterranean Diet and its Components in Relation to All-Cause Mortality, meta-analysis, provides this definitive scientific breakdown. Conducted by an expert, multidisciplinary team of researchers from the Department of Hygiene, Epidemiology and Medical Statistics at the National and Kapodistrian University of Athens, the School of Mathematics and Statistics at the University of Glasgow, the Hellenic Health Foundation, and the Department of Clinical Sciences and Community Health at the University of Milan. This massive study systematically gathered, harmonized, and analyzed prospective cohort data published across the global scientific literature up to December 31, 2017. The overarching objective of this rigorous meta-analysis was twofold. First, to definitively quantify the overall statistical association of strict adherence to the Mediterranean diet with the risk of death from any cause. And second, to dissect the individual components that make up the diet to discover which specific foods drive the greatest longevity benefits. To establish a completely standard, objective, and reproducible metric for their mathematical analysis, researchers rely heavily on a specialized tracking framework known as the Mediterranean Diet Score, often abbreviated in academic literature as the MDS. This unique scoring system assigns precise numerical values to an individual's daily consumption habits, meticulously tracking their exact structural alignment with the traditional eating patterns historically observed among populations residing within the Mediterranean basin, where olive trees grow naturally. In a standard epidemiological assessment, individuals receive positive points for consuming above the median amounts of traditional, health-promoting food groups. These include fresh fruits, vegetables, legumes, minimally processed whole grains, nuts, seeds, and fresh fish. They also receive crucial points for maintaining a high ratio of monounsaturated fatty acids to saturated fatty acids, a biomarker achieved primarily by utilizing extra virgin olive oil as their absolute principal source of daily dietary fat. Conversely, points are strictly withheld or deducted for the excessive consumption of non-traditional, industrialized food groups. These include red meats, highly processed meats, poultry, high-fat dairy products, and commercial sweets or refined carbohydrates. By distilling an entire complex lifestyle pattern down into a structured, standardized numerical scale ranging from 0 to 9 points, epidemiologists can precisely track how incremental, everyday changes in a person's eating habits alter their long-term survival probability, biological rate of aging, and overall health span. The sheer scale, execution, and mathematical rigor of this specific paper provide an unparalleled level of statistical authority to the fields of nutrition and life extension. The research team pooled raw data across 30 distinct, high-quality prospective cohort studies, capturing an enormous total population sample that ultimately accounted for over 225,600 recorded deaths. When analyzing this vast ocean of data using advanced random effects statistical models to account for natural variations across different study designs, the researchers uncovered a profound, undeniable protective effect. Individuals who fell into the study-specific highest category of Mediterranean diet adherence exhibited a summary relative risk for all-cause mortality of 0.79 when compared directly to those stuck in the lowest adherence category. This translates to a massive 21% overall reduction in the risk of premature death from any cause. Furthermore, to ensure absolute thoroughness, the data was thoroughly evaluated as a continuous linear variable. Here, the researchers discovered that every single standard deviation increment in a person's Mediterranean diet score yielded a summary relative risk of 0.92. This means that even modest, small, incremental lifestyle steps toward a Mediterranean eating pattern provide a highly predictable, statistically significant 8% reduction in all-cause mortality. This establishes a clear, linear, dose-response relationship between dietary alignment and an extended human lifespan. To ensure the absolute integrity of these conclusions, the researchers performed extensive stratified analyses, breaking down the massive dataset by individual countries, publication years, and specific variations in the MDS index ranges. While they noted some natural statistical heterogeneity across different geographical regions, particularly across various European countries, the highly significant, life-saving, inverse association between the Mediterranean diet and all-cause mortality remained perfectly stable and universally evident across almost every single subgroup analyzed. While proving the global, overarching longevity benefit of the collective diet is a major triumph for public health, the truly revolutionary and unique aspect of this meta-analysis lies in its ability to completely isolate, weight, and separate the individual components that comprise the Mediterranean diet score. For decades, nutritional scientists and clinical researchers have fiercely debated a fundamental question. Does the life-extending magic of this diet stem purely from the holistic, synergistic effect of the entire pattern working together, or are there specific, dominant powerhouse food groups driving the vast majority of the statistical survival benefit? The granular statistical breakdown provided by this international research team offers definitive clarity on this issue, revealing that certain individual dietary components carry a vastly heavier weight in reducing all-cause mortality than others. When the researchers isolated and ran separate mathematical models for each specific food category tracked by the score, they discovered that many components did not achieve independent statistical significance when completely isolated from the rest of the pattern. Instead, the strongest, most dominant, and highly statistically significant inverse associations with premature death were explicitly highlighted for three key, primary components: moderate, non-excessive alcohol consumption, a high intake of fresh fruits, and a high consumption of vegetables. Understanding the precise molecular mechanisms behind these three specific pillars allows us to understand exactly how this ancient dietary tradition chemically optimizes human biology for maximum longevity. The single strongest individual component highlighted in the entire meta-analysis was moderate, non-excessive alcohol consumption, which demonstrated a summary relative risk of 0.86. This represents a powerful, independent 14% reduction in all-cause mortality compared to both heavy, abusive drinkers and absolute lifetime abstainers. Within the authentic structural framework of the Mediterranean diet, this specific component does not refer to the casual consumption of commercial spirits or beer. Rather, it almost exclusively dictates the habitual intake of high-quality red wine, taken in low to moderate amounts strictly alongside meals. The profound biological benefits of this cultural habit are driven by a dense, complex concentration of grape-derived polyphenol and bioactive compounds, most notably resveratrol, anthocyanins, and proanthocyanidins. Resveratrol acts as a potent biochemical signaling molecule inside human cells, directly activating the sirtuin-1 pathway, which is widely recognized as a master longevity control switch. Activating sirtuin-1 upregulates mitochondrial biogenesis, enhances the fidelity of DNA repair mechanisms, promotes cellular survival, and beautifully mimics many of the well-documented life-extending effects of caloric restriction. Furthermore, when consumed directly alongside a complete meal, the low-dose ethanol matrix acts as a mild, safe vasodilator and an antiplatelet agent. This process successfully reduces blood viscosity, improves post-meal endothelial nitric oxide production, and prevents the acute, dangerous arterial inflammation and oxidative stress that typically follows the ingestion of macronutrients. The second most powerful individual component identified by the research team's mathematical breakdown was high fruit consumption, which yielded an impressive summary relative risk of 0.88. marking a clear 12% independent reduction in all-cause mortality. Fresh fruits native to the Mediterranean basin serve as an abundant, highly bioavailable source of essential vitamins, carotenoids, and unique polyphenolic flavonoids, such as quercetin, hesperidin, and naringenin. These powerful compounds act as direct, highly efficient scavengers of reactive oxygen species, protecting cellular proteins, structural lipids, and delicate nucleic acids from the constant, daily threat of oxidative stress and DNA damage. Crucially, the natural, intact fiber matrix within whole, fresh fruits significantly slows down the absorption of natural fructose in the gastrointestinal tract, preventing sharp, harmful insulin spikes while successfully delivering vital prebiotic substrates to the deep gut microbiome. This process actively fuels the bacterial production of short-chain fatty acids like butyrate, acetate, and propionate, which systematically reinforces the structural tight junctions of the intestinal barrier and suppresses systemic low-grade inflammation, effectively preventing the long-term cellular damage that drives accelerated biological aging. The third vital individual component heavily validated by the statistical data was high vegetable consumption, which achieved a summary relative risk of 0.94, representing a highly significant 6% independent reduction in all-cause mortality. Vegetables are packed with an irreplaceable, dense spectrum of essential minerals, magnesium, potassium, and highly active phytochemicals like glucosinolates, carotenoids, and polyphenolic acids. These natural molecules serve as subtle, non-toxic biological stressors that trigger a cellular process known as mitohormesis. This process activates the body's internal cellular defense systems via the nuclear factor erythroid-2-related factor 2 pathway, commonly known as the NRF2 signaling pathway. Activating the NRF2 pathway commands human cells to drastically upregulate their own internal production of endogenous master antioxidants, such as glutathione, catalase, and superoxide dismutase. This internal antioxidant defense system is thousands of times more powerful and efficient than taking external, synthetic antioxidant vitamins. This process makes human cells incredibly resilient against environmental toxins, metabolic waste products, and chronic, low-grade systemic inflammation. Furthermore, the high potassium content naturally found in a vegetable-rich diet directly counterbalances dietary sodium, optimizing endothelial nitric oxide production, relaxing the smooth muscle walls of the vascular system, and fundamentally lowering long-term blood pressure and cardiovascular mortality risk. The definitive conclusion of this extensive, highly detailed scientific meta-analysis highlights both a profound academic validation and an indispensable clinical toolset for the future of modern longevity medicine and public health policy. By meticulously gathering and analyzing data from over 225,000 deaths across 30 separate prospective cohorts, the researchers successfully demonstrated that while the traditional Mediterranean diet functions beautifully as an integrated, synergistic nutritional lifestyle, its profound life-extending power is heavily anchored by the specific biological impacts of moderate wine consumption with meals, alongside high, consistent intakes of fresh fruits and vegetables. The authors emphasize that these results are absolutely critical for public health, as they move the medical community away from vague, ambiguous nutritional advice and provide clear, mathematically backed priorities for dietary intervention. By understanding that these specific components drive the strongest, most stable reductions in all-cause mortality, individuals can make targeted, high-impact changes to their daily eating habits to effectively maximize their biological health span. Ultimately, the document concludes that embracing this molecularly rich, time-tested dietary framework provides a highly predictable, scientifically sound blueprint to quiet systemic chronic inflammation, protect vascular endothelial integrity, and break the self-sustaining cycle of age-related metabolic and cellular decline, completely transforming our everyday relationship with food into a precise, defensive science of human life extension and cognitive preservation.